What's going on there, my friends? In my continuing revisitation to Murph's Middle Earth role-playing game. In this particular one, I have a book called Dunland and the Southern Misty Mountains. Right now, once again, I said that you can confuse this with a module or an adventure or a source book, and to me, they're a bit of all three. This particular set or series, much thinner, much smaller than these more in-depth versions, and to me, what it is a combination, a source book light, if you will, or a module that's beefed up with background. And what they've done at ICE is they've taken a lot of these books and they tie into specific locations, geographically speaking. In this case, Dunland. And now, for those of you who've watched the movies, you would know that there's a scene where Suramon is I think it's very early in the second movie where Suramon is stirring up the local mountain tribes, if you will, and turns them loose on the Rohirrim. And you show a picture, and then you see the scene of a bunch of these guys come running down a hill and sack a town. So that's who these guys are, Dunlandings. This is what we're talking about. And their influence or their part in the scheme of the Western civilization of Gondor and Arnor. The location of Dunland is right along the mountains just to the north and to the south of the Gap of Rohan. And so, where the major trade route, main road leading to the north, passes through the Gap, these people have always been, there. And whether they're raiders or they're being used as or suppressed by the various political entities of their era is up for grabs. There's a good reason why these particular people are so against Gondor and the Rohirrim, and this book here actually gives you quite a bit of information to that effect. Uh, Another good section on it is it talks about adapting the module to your campaign. Um, Once again, like I said, a lot of these books are set in the era of the Third Age, 1600-ish, somewhere in there, but they usually come with two or three variants. So depending on various timelines in the Third Age, and allowing you to adjust them accordingly. I guess they picked 1640 because it's 1,000 years before the events of the Ring, the War of the Ring, and it allows for most of the key locations to still have some population and activity in them, so you can, as a player, visit them while they're still in play. Meanwhile, you have to take into account that some significant changes will happen eventually, but it shouldn't affect your current play. Let's see. Now, goes on about Dunlandings. Oh, some of the halflings were running around in the neighborhoods, the traders, the smugglers. Dunland in Third Age, 1640 to 2510. In 1640, Dunlandings remained virtually unchanged for 800 years, backed by a temple of justice. Iconos continued to grow in power, blah, 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 politics. Kind of like the Scottish Highlanders or Lowlanders, I would think, maybe without so much pizzazz. Yeah, kind of put them in that category of hill people, if you want to. They're a little less civilized than the Gondorians, if you will, or even the Rohirrim, but uh, it's a good addition to the game system. They also got a well-established layout here for a keep, and it goes into detail. I have used these before as fill-ins for other games because, once again, as a GM, time is valuable, and sometimes you don't have the. You love to go into greater detail of creating something for your players, but they're not going to be there long enough to spend. You're only going to be there for half a game or one game session or maybe two, and I have to weigh, is it worth spending 2 weeks or 3 weeks creating something that the characters are basically going to pass by or pass through or potentially never even enter because they got a will of their own and they want to go this way instead of that way. So being able to pull up stuff like this out of a game system, it doesn't matter where from, the material itself usable in that aspect. That's just my way of cutting corners. I don't know if that's good or bad. You agree with me? You don't agree with me? Give me a comment, yell at me, flip me off, whatever works for you. I'm all good. One of the unique elements, let me rephrase it, not unique, one of the different elements of this particular book came along when I first got it was this, well, I'm not sure what to call it. It's called a keep. So it says Dunland is located on the ridge of the Misty Mountains on the western side. Location picked by Famir to build a citadel was at a high elevation on a protruding cliff face. These characteristic makes it very defensible. This is where like the maps and all this stuff belong to this particular place. And there's, of course, when I want to find it, I can't find it, and I hear mark things and then it falls off, and I don't want to. There's a picture of the keep in particular. What makes this one unusual compared to a lot of others is apparently there was this group of elves who liked to experiment, and you could call them mad scientist types if you want, because that's kind of what they fit into. And they originally were in Ostanadil, or however you pronounce it, the elven city that existed when the Lord of the Rings, when Sauron and the elves created the rings. These fellers come out of this place. They built their own little retreat, if you will, and then they retreated. They went back there. They went there and more or less closed themselves in to continue on experiments and developing things that were considered inappropriate or frowned upon, or maybe even dangerous by the elvish leadership in general, right? So one or two of them experimented in genetic manipulation, taking existing life forms and basically warping them, all out Frankenstein, except they're living. And then another one was studying some very obscure magical stuff. And then a third one was developing. He found this highly magically adaptable material that was also extremely dangerous to screw with, and basically figured out how to make lighter than airships. So there's a couple boats here that they can sail, in the air, if you will. The material in question is radioactive, and it was probably one of the reasons why the mainline Elvish people said you can't be doing that in town. You just can't be doing that here. It's not good for you. And so a very odd group of elves from the standard, which gave me a different perspective on the elves in Middle Earth. So at the time, they're pretty well established that these are the highly, the intelligent, cultured, and more or less good-natured or goodly people do still produce some characters or some people with character flaws, which is a good thing. So, like I said, this particular map covers an important part of the Middle Earth world, especially if you're playing and people are moving from the north to the south. They're going to pass through this. Having that gives you some advantage. I've also used the material in other game systems. I needed whenever I had characters running through a hilly region that was full of barbarian tribes. This worked. You just change the place names and the names themselves. The mechanics are adjustable, like I said, and it saved me a whole lot of work for an area that the characters I knew were just passing through. They weren't going to be caught up in it, if you will. So, revisiting Dunland, the Southern Misty Mountains. It's a good system, good book, good game. Goodbye.